This is a review of one of my favorite guitars of recent years, the Fender Vintera II 60 Strat, and in my case it's a limited edition, or as Fender call it, an FSR. Mine comes in Fiesta Red, has custom shop pickups, and the neck is roasted maple. But other than that, it's the same spec as the stock version. So is this Fender the best Strat you can buy for around $1,000? Guys, before we get into the video, please like and subscribe. I'm at 364 subscribers at the time of recording. The question is, can we get to 500? With your help, I'm sure we can. So please hit that subscribe button and let's get back to the Vintera. I bought this guitar with my own money about 6 months ago and paid around 1,000 euros for it. At first glance, this guitar looks stunning. The Fiesta Red paint job is perfect and it contrasts perfectly with the hardware. The woods used in the neck and fretboard are also really good looking, and the added roasted maple really makes this guitar look amazing. As I said in the intro, this one is a special edition of the standard Vintera II 60 Strat. The only differences being the pickups and the roasted maple neck. All other specs are the same. The Vintera II series is Fender's top-of-the-line series of Mexican-made guitars that was created to offer the market a selection of affordable, vintage-inspired instruments. These aren't exactly the same as vintage correct, in the sense that they don't reproduce a particular year, like the custom shop does, but they more so reproduce a decade or an era of guitar. This one is the 60s model, but there's also a 70s and the 50s, and each will have features that can be associated with those decades more directly. The Vintera II is a true testament of the advancement of Fender's Mexico plans. I owned the 2006 Mexican-made Tele many years ago, and that particular guitar, while it stayed with me for about 4 years, in retrospect was not a great guitar at all. The replacement for that series of guitars would be today's Fender Players, which are much more competent than the old Mexican Standard series. And the Vinteras, in my opinion, take the credence of the Mexican plans to the next level. Before owning this one, I had not played a Mexican Fender produced to this standard. So in my opinion, over the last 20 years, Fender has advanced its Mexican plant a lot, and they're now producing products at a much more sophisticated level. Let's look at some of that sophistication in action on this model. The build quality on this Strat is extremely good. As I said previously, my past experiences with Mexican Fenders were pretty bad, and I've played many Mexican Fenders at stores and owned by friends, and up until recently I've always felt like those were second-grade instruments when compared to their American counterparts. On this one, I don't feel that at all. I just recently owned a $2,000 American Professional II Telecaster, and I really don't feel like there's a huge gap between the build quality on this one and the Pro Tele. Sure, the American Tele was a bit lighter, you could tell the materials were a bit more expensive, maybe, but generally speaking, the feel and maintenance of the instrument was pretty similar, which is very surprising to me. Either the Mexican plant improved way more than expected, or the American one kinda stagnated in comparison. Either way, the gap between those, in my mind, is not what it used to be. In terms of hardware, everything here is great. Great knobs, great pickup selector, great jack input plate, nothing negative to report. The tuners are the traditional Fender tuners, which are aesthetically correct for a vintage spec guitar, but are honestly very bothersome to use. In particular, in the top 3 strings. I like using them for the 3 lower strings. You can restring those quickly and move on, but when it comes to the 3 higher strings, I find these tuners very frustrating because the strings keep slipping while I'm trying to restring. I'm sure it's more of a me problem than a problem with the tuners, but I'm not a fan of this design, and I much prefer a locking tuner or just a standard modern tuner. The quality of the bridge and its ability to stay in tune while using the whammy bar is fine. Not as good as some more expensive guitars like the Prestige Ibanez AZs, which are extremely stable, but also not terrible. I would say the bridge stability is adequate, but not impressive. In terms of craftsmanship, I must say this is an impressive guitar. The paint job is perfect and the fretwork is pretty neat and tidy as well. It absolutely looks like a finished product with no missed spots. The Ensenada team paid really close attention to detail with this one. I'm seriously impressed. This guitar has a thinner neck, which plays pretty well for my preferences. It's easy to play chords and I can even play fast passages with not a lot of effort. Now, this is nothing like an Ibanez Wizard neck. It's not that easy to play or as helpful as a neck like that. This is still a traditional Fender style neck, so be prepared for that. I would say for someone looking for a traditional style guitar, this neck is pretty modern, but for someone looking for a modern guitar, this is still a bit too traditional in terms of carve and thickness. Personally, I like the neck, but I don't love it. The thing that truly bothers me on this guitar is, you guessed it, the neck radius. It's a 725 radius, which to me is an immediate turn-off. Unfortunately, I played it at the store and liked it and decided to buy it regardless. However, I've never liked rounder fretboards. I really like 12 inches and higher, and I just feel like bending on this radius is really hard. Even on 9s, bending still feels pretty stiff. Something I don't feel on my Ibanez, which has the same scale length, but a much flatter radius. So if this is a turn-off for you as it is for me, be aware that this is in fact a vintage spec with the radius to show for it. All in all, the neck and playability on this instrument are vintage inspired, but with some modern touches, such as the neck being on the thinner side and being made in satin roasted maple, which I truly appreciate. This is the most important reason why I bought this guitar. This one in particular comes with Fender Custom Shop Fat 60 pickups, unlike the stock version of the Vintera II. These pickups are very good. I really like the sounds of this guitar, especially because it works very well with a clean tone. You can achieve those glassy strat tones we all love, but it also works really well under distortion. I would say it can manage a moderate amount of distortion, more than your typical strat, but it starts sounding bad once you start approaching heavy gain. It can still hang with a 5150 on the lead channel, but it won't hold a candle to a humbucker in terms of handling distortion, of course. In terms of noise, these are not noise-cancelling pickups, which I prefer. I don't think the tone of a noise-cancelling pickup is the same as a normal pickup at all. I've recently owned a Sir Classic S from 2014. I bought it used and I had to sell it a few months later because I couldn't agree with the sound of the pickups. They were in fact noiseless, yes, but the strat glassiness was lacking in my opinion. So I personally would rather have the noise there. These pickups are RWRP, so you get noiseless action on positions 2 and 4, which for some people also changes the tone, but reverse wound for me has been fine. When it comes to pots and pickup switcher, everything's pretty standard, everything works as intended and it just sounds great. Nothing negative to report. The jack input also works fine with no noise. I would say this is a very versatile guitar provided you prefer the vintage spec. This can easily handle any style of music you throw at it, with the exception of metal, which in my view more or less requires humbuckers. Other than that, it's a quite versatile workhorse with a super usable whammy bar. It sounds very good clean, overdriven and even distorted. Obviously, keep in mind this is a single coil instrument, and once you start upping the drive, more and more noise will build, unlike a humbucker guitar. So for thick lead sounds with lots of effects and distortion, be prepared for a bit to a lot of noise. But the tone will be worth it. In conclusion, I think Fender Mexico created an excellent instrument that fits the price tag. The instrument is absolutely beautiful and very well built. It plays well and it sounds great in almost any musical scenario you can think of. Is this the guitar for you though? If you want a traditionally spec'd Strat with a 725 radius, small vintage frets and an awesome paint job, yes, I think this is an appropriately priced guitar. But keep in mind, if you like modern guitars like Ibanez, Jackson, Charvel and others, this will probably not fit your style. For me, the frets are far too small and the radius is too curved. I much prefer a 12-inch with huge stainless steel frets, but that's a very personal preference. In terms of price, I think this line of guitars is at a very decent place in the market. The only true competition for it I see is the Sire S7 and the S10, which are incredibly well-spec'd guitars. I have the utmost respect for Sire, and I absolutely love my Marcus Miller bass, which sounds incredible. I haven't tried the S10 or the S7, but all the reviews are very positive and I'm sure there's a good reason for it. However, these are quite different propositions. I think the Vintera is really an instrument for someone who wants a traditional Fender, and if that's you, I'm not sure you can be swayed by Sire, even if their guitars have a much higher specs at a lower price. Because, you know, spec isn't always the main reason why we choose a guitar. I think these Vinteras offer a time capsule for anyone interested in having an instrument built for a different period at an agreeable price, while still offering quite a bit of value for money. Will I keep this one for the long haul? I still don't know, but I don't think that's likely. I just don't like the small frets and the radius, and also I want to invest in new instruments to bring to the channel, so it's possible I'll sell this one so I can finance something new. But I'm not sure yet. Guys, I really hope you enjoyed the video, and please let me know in the comments what you think of the Vintera guitars. Anyway, thanks for watching, leave a like if you enjoyed, and see you next time. Bye bye.